Hi, Alexi here. Welcome back to my channel where I decided to just wear my Plan B outfit from last video. Like, this is what I personally would wear to Cassie and Nate's wedding because honestly, I couldn't think of anything else to wear for this Euphoria video. Maybe someday I'll be at a point where I can wear this dress and just my fun little suits that I have to like events. That would be cool. Euphoria season 3. God, I think these are episodes 4 and 5. So as you will recall, in the last episodes, Nate did get his toe cut off because he is behind on payments to some people he owes money to because secretly he's broke because his real estate plan is getting delayed because of like an endangered flower or something. Whatever, I don't care about Nate Jacobs. But anyways, he did get his toe sewn back on, and he's like to Cassie, it's a metaphor for how our marriage is fixable. And Nate Jacobs, no, it's not. It's just a toe. Leave the metaphors to the sapphics, okay? You're failing. So Cassie is real pissed off at this point because Nate is like, yeah, I owe them like $1 million-ish. And she packs up to move to the big city, aka LA, where Maddie is going to manage her Instagram and OF career. Also, remember last episode, Rue got pulled over and arrested. So basically she's being interrogated and there's this back and forth where the cops are like, have you ever been to Mexico? And she's like, no, I've never been to Mexico. I mean, I like might have accidentally driven over the border once because I drive for Uber. Can you accidentally drive over the border? I feel like that's not. So then the cops are like, oh, so you would remember if you'd ever been like 20 minutes into Mexico. Not that we have evidence of that. And she's like, yeah, I would remember if I'd been 20 minutes into Mexico. Girl, that's so specific. Like, what are you stupid? Because then the cops pull out a picture of her like 20 minutes into Mexico and they're like, we know you're a drug mule and you just, you lied to us, the cops. And maybe I missed something by only watching like summaries of season 2, but this feels really out of character for Rue. Like, you're telling me Rue would talk to the cops and admit to that much stuff? Like, maybe I would believe it if she was under the influence while all of this is happening, but she's not. So it just feels like a convenient plot device because then they're like, okay, we want you to turn informer so we can bring Lori's drug empire down. So Rue agrees because she doesn't want to go to prison for like a bajillion years for being a drug trafficker. But the thing is, she doesn't work for Lori anymore. Remember, she works for Alamo. She's helping like run one of his strip clubs. And they are not getting drugs from Lori anymore either because last episode they killed her bird, Paladin. So the cops tell her, okay, we'll find a different drug person to bring down because otherwise we will arrest you for 1,000,000,000,000 years. So Rue is hanging out with Maddie, Cassie, and Lexi because Cassie has moved into the apartment like across from Lexi and Maddie is doing like a photo shoot for her. We get more OF ad material here, like with Lexi being like, oh, I don't really get why you're selling your body like this to Cassie, and Maddie being like, bad baby went on OF when she turned 18 and she made like several $1,000,000. Which, can I just say, the culture of young women going on OF and other adult entertainment sites as soon as they turn 18 and immediately making millions of dollars is so creepy. Why are we bringing Catch Me Outside Girl into this shit? Oh my god. So yeah, we're still getting OF ad material here. Go on OF, you'll make millions of dollars. The market isn't oversaturated and we're not going to take like 20% of your earnings. Definitely not go on OF. Be like Euphoria and go on OF. So Rue asks if Maddie knows anybody who's selling drugs and they all freak out because they're like, we thought you were sober, which actually Rue is not sober, if I remember correctly. I think she did Coca-Cola, if you will, with Angel a couple of episodes ago. So she doesn't really get any leads. Lexi, who is working as a PA, commissions Jules to do a painting inspired by some like impressionist artists for the show that she is PAing for. Jules paints a bunch of naked trans women frolicking. It's a great painting. Whoever painted that, go off. I would put that in my house, and I don't even really like naked art that much, to be honest. There's a scene that's like, I guess, supposed to be funny where the people that work on the show and Lexi are trying to figure out a delicate way to tell her they want her to change the painting without sounding transphobic. And what they end up saying is it's too explicit to show on network TV. And the episode does actually end with her painting over the people with big red brushstrokes that don't really fit thematically with what the show wanted. And I think there are a few ways to read this. My knee-jerk reaction was that Jules was sort of being used as the butt of this joke, like, of course a trans person would try to force their identity into this art that would be on screen. Why can't trans people just be normal? But I think there is also a more generous reading as well. That's right, I am being generous to Sam Levinson. The generous reading is that Jules is sort of self-sabotaging potentially, because on some level she's become really comfortable being the kept woman and just watching Love Island all day. Which I still do think this trope of like being a kept woman, like a secret affair partner to a cishet man who's cheating on his wife and like being paid for sex essentially does play into negative stereotypes about trans women. Yeah, I still do think that Sam Levinson. And I think the scene at the end of the episode could be read as showing both that self-sabotage, right? She knows that probably this is not what they want with the painting. It's not what they suggested, like putting clothes on the woman. And also it could be read as, even though she kind of pretended to be ignorant at what Lexi and the execs were hinting at when they were telling her to cover up the painting, she does know that there's transphobia embedded in that. And if she had painted naked cis women, there probably wouldn't be as much of this like network TV issue, and she's taking out her anger about that. That said, I don't think this scene is necessarily subversive. Like, I might feel differently if Hunter Schafer had written it, potentially. It still does just feel weird to me at a time when like trans people, and in particular trans women, are the subject of so much hate, to have a scene that again plays into this stereotype. I guess like both things can be true at once, you know? Also, Lexi does get in trouble for this, even though she did tell Jules like the vibe they wanted, because she like wasn't specific enough according to her boss. And they have to delay their filming for a couple of days while Jules like fixes the painting. So obviously, you know, it's all her fault that they're losing like hundreds of thousands of dollars, so she should never mess up again. Nate's retirement community doesn't get approved by the zoning board because they still need a final ruling about the flowers again, and he ends up begging on his knees to the zoning board in front of everyone. I think this is more thinly veiled fetish material, to be so honest with you. Alamo brings in a new girl called Kitty to replace Angel, as Angel never came back from rehab. Kitty, not the best dancer, but Rue sees via the security cameras that Kitty was actually hired to be a full-service sex worker, which Rue is shocked and horrified by. This was really confusing to me because I just assumed we all knew that part of Alamo's business was like being a pimp and not just owning strip clubs. Rue asks Kitty if she's all right. Rue is not really concerned about how like the POC dancers are being treated until it's a white woman that is you know, being treated badly. And it kind of makes you wonder if it was one of the like Latina dancers, for example, would she have as strong of a reaction? I don't really think that Sam Levinson is thinking about that all that much. I think that is kind of accidental, to be honest, but it was a thought I had. So Rue does ask Kitty if she's all right after that, which Magic overhears, and that makes her suspicious of Rue, whom she now thinks might be a snitch. And she tells all this to Big Eddie, but Rue had accidentally left her phone in the room while all this was happening, and her phone now has an app on it that the feds installed that like just makes her phone a bug basically. So they heard this whole conversation and they call her and they're like, okay, this is what's happening. You need to make magic seem less trustworthy. Maddie invites Cassie to a house party of that like celeb guy whom her film manages. She gets Cassie to seduce him, but not like sleep with him, just like making out with him, and has his friends who are live streaming bust into the room as they're making out and doing Coca-Cola. His friends are like, who is this? And Cassie's like, it's just Cassie. That's my handle. So now she's going viral and is getting hella followers. And Cassie is also making hella money on OF because remember, everybody makes lots of money on OF. You should get on OF. Give us 20% of your income from OF. Cassie is also now wiring Nate money, but he's still late on paying off his debts. So one of the guys he owes money to breaks into his and Cassie's house that, remember, Cassie isn't living in right now. And tears his heel and toe off and cuts off a finger. I watch horror movies for fun. Like, if I'm going to the movie theater, probably I'm going to see a horror movie with my cousin, but kind of gross. I was kind of like, oh god, oh. I don't know why they don't just, like, sell the super expensive house in the suburb of LA and, like, I don't know, maybe rent for a little bit. I guess that's kind of the point, that they'd rather lose limbs than status. Whatever. I can't believe I'm defending some of Sam Levinson's choices. Maddie is annoyed that Cassie is wiring money to Nate and is like, he's not a breadwinner. He's a bread loser. And I do fear that made me laugh. That kind of is a really good line. We get a montage of Cassie doing a lot of basically fetish content for OF, like NSFW ASMR and foot stuff. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I don't think Sam Levinson necessarily holds all of these fetishes himself, because that's a lot for one person. But I do think he potentially gets off on the fact that he can make these actors, and in particular these actresses, do this shit, and that he can make the audience watch it. Like, I think it's a power thing for him, not to psychoanalyze too much. What I do think is a fetish for him is gigantism. Gigantism? Yeah, so I do think he has a thing for macrophilia. I'm not even sure, like, do you censor that word on YouTube? Because of the Cassie-zilla scene, which will surely go down in infamy. She grows to a giant in size and walks around a like set, essentially, model of LA and like crushes buildings and like puts her boobs up against a window, and also she does crush an unhoused POC man. Yeah, while she's making her way downtown, destroying LA to flash her boobs. I think there's a lot going on there. I mean, apparently the set took like forever to make and it must have been so expensive. So at a certain point, like, it's gotta have been a thing that Sam Levinson was into and wanted to project onto Sydney Sweeney. I struggle to feel bad for Sydney Sweeney, but that is, I think, a little bit exploitative. Yeah, you wouldn't make fetish content because you're a dog, so you can't do that. No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. Is her specifically crushing a POC man while she Cassie-zilla is supposed to be like commentary? It feels weird to include it in what is very clearly a fetish scene. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Sam Levinson is still mad that no one wanted to bang him in high school, so he's putting these actresses that are way out of his league looks-wise into these weird situations that feed into his own sexual gratification as some weird form of revenge and power play. Again, not to like psychoanalyze on Maine or whatever. Also, Cassie is going on podcasts and doing like conservative talking points, like men saying they want women who cook and clean instead of work is the modern day equivalent of the N-word. Guys, I think the modern day equivalent of the N-word is the N-word. And then someone says she's sounding like a Democrat and she says, I'm not full R slur for mentally disabled people. What is up with the R slur coming back? I've seen some debate of this sequence online because, as some of my haters have commented, I really do need to touch grass. And the debate is sort of on, is this sequence meant to poke fun at Sydney Sweeney, who is like weird and conservative and says shit like this completely 100% seriously IRL, or if it should be taken at face value and it really is conservative. And I hate to defend Sam Levinson again, but I actually tend towards the former because we know from earlier in the episode that even as she's saying all of this shit, like publicly, Cassie is financially supporting Nate, who is the bread loser. Now, do I think that this, or even Hunter Schafer's scene where she paints over the rejected painting, make Euphoria subversive? No, I just think they are rare elements of something actually interesting and nuanced in a show that has largely become tired shock value, stereotyping, and fetish content. So Cassie is offered a place at the influencer guy's house, which is basically like the Team 10 house, and he tells her that Maddie isn't a real manager, she just works for one. I do think this once again shows that Sam Levinson is kind of out of touch because he's trying to root Euphoria in our timeline through advertisement segments. I mean, references, but content houses aren't like super a thing anymore from my understanding. Like there is the Bop House, but we see the people in the influencer house that they're asking Cassie to join doing TikTok dances. And also Cassie's manager was mad that the influencer guy was dating somebody that was an OF model. So I don't think it's like a Bob House vibe. I think it's more like Team 10 vibe. And those influencer houses from a couple of years ago, they were more making content aimed at like a younger audience. So I feel like Cassie wouldn't really make a lot of sense as somebody to add when she's like very publicly even just making Instagram content that is like fetish content. This just doesn't make a lot of sense to me, like many things in this show. Cassie does confront Maddie about how she's not a real manager and finds out that Maddie is actually living in a shitty basement apartment instead of this like super glamorous life that she is projecting. She tries to leave Maddie as a client, but Maddie says, okay, then I'm going to cancel the audition for a TV show that I set you up with, Cassie. So Cassie walks back that decision as quickly as Sydney Sweeney likes to defend her eugenics ad and is like, no, I'll stay with you, Maddie. I'll stay with you, Maddie. You're my best friend, Maddie. Maddie gets her to sign a contract she's drawn up. However, Maddie was lying about that audition, so she gets Lexi to get Cassie in, and it's for the show that Jules painted the painting for and Lexi's a PA for. Cassie auditions with a Shakespeare monologue and gets the minor part. I look forward to lots of young people seeing this and starting to audition for things with their own Shakespeare monologues. May they get the roles that Sydney Sweeney was auditioning for instead of her. Meanwhile, the club that Rue works for gets robbed, presumably by Lori's gang, who I think are wearing Obama masks because they're racist. They suck. This is also a side note. I kind of wish that Sam Levinson trusted the audience to understand that Lori's gangs are white supremacists with symbols beyond the Confederate flag, like maybe Punisher logos or thin blue line flags. Like one of them has a Confederate phone case and we see the Confederate flag in a lot of shots. I don't know. I feel like he trusted us to understand and sort of like built up to the fact that they were white supremacists by, again, thin blue line phone cases or like Punisher stickers on their cars or like 1776 stickers on pristine pickup trucks. And then a couple episodes in, when you do see the Confederate flag in their weird little house, it's like, oh yeah, of course we saw that coming. That's just a like, I think that Sam Levinson doesn't respect his audience thing. though. Big Eddie gets shot once because he refuses to open the safe, and Lori's people threaten to blow his dick off, so he does open the safe for them. Alamo is super mad about this because he's like, there's proof in there that I am like a small man or something like that. Like, he doesn't specifically say it that way, but in the last 2 episodes we get a bunch of scenes where, for example, like, one of the guys brings him a pair of pants that are too short, and he's like, these are pants for a man that's 5'9" and I'm 6 foot whatever. Are you saying I'm short? Are you saying I'm small? I did sort of feel like this fear of being perceived as like small came out of nowhere for me. Like, again, maybe it is hinted about in earlier episodes and I just like missed it. If I did, that's a little bit hypocritical of me because I literally was just advocating for like a little bit of subtlety and trusting your audience. But yeah, let me know in the comments if it did come up and this actually wasn't out of left field for you. Oh, also in that like pants tailoring scene, I kind of once again got the sense that like Sam Levinson is writing dialogue between his Black characters in the way he thinks Black people talk to each other when not around white people. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense. And like, you know, I'm not Black, so like there's definitely a very big possibility that I'm wrong about this, but the dialogue really to me did read as like how a white guy thinks Black people talk to each other. Magic is once again suspicious of Rue because Rue lived with Lori's gang for several months, but she didn't recognize the voices of the robbers. So Rue and Maddie are out getting milkshakes. I will say I do like their friendship actually, and that they're interacting more, because those are just my 2 favorite characters, for better or for worse. But anyways, they're out getting milkshakes and Alamo comes walking in and he gets Rue to go somewhere with his guys. He then hires Maddie to start running some of his dancers' OFs. I think it's Kitty Magic and one other girl, maybe. And, you know, Maddie does her whole, the entertainment industry made this amount of money, over the past year, and OF made this amount of money that's like about the same or more. I'll put the numbers on the screen. And like, it's an untapped market. We get it, Sam Levinson. You have a deal with OF. Oh my god. Meanwhile, Alamo's team has Rue dig a really deep hole to the point that she is like up to her neck. And she's like, hey guys, can you like help me out of the hole now? And they're like, ah. And then they do bury her, but her head is still visible. And then the episode ends with Alamo riding in on a horse with a polo. Do you call that like a stick? I don't know. Polo bat. He has it raised, so I think the implication is he's gonna knock her head off, which is a dramatic way to end the episode. The thing is, like, I really do like modern westerns. Like, I do like that vibe as long as they sort of examine and subvert what is wrong with that genre, because that genre historically and currently is very racist. Like, I loved Nope because it kind of played with that a little bit. I don't think Sam Levinson is equipped to write that kind of Western, unfortunately. Thank you so much for watching. My outro song is Take a Vacation. Take a Vacation by The Young Veins. All channel art is by me. Like, comment, and subscribe. I love comments because I love to yap on the internet. I also have an email that I respond to, aluciasonline@gmail.com, and I do have an Instagram, which is alexisonline, and the profile picture is Laguna Blue on the phone. I'll change that when Mattel comes for me, if ever. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye now. He'll never meet Sam Levinson. I wouldn't do that to him.